Hello everyone, it's Sina here with Art Social Gallery, and I am extremely excited because today we get the opportunity to speak with Mr. Keith Green, the one and only amazing abstract artist. Keith, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Pleasure being here.
Yes, I am excited because all these beautiful pieces that I can't wait to talk about. I really want to start by you just telling us a little bit about your background and kind of what led you into art.
Well, crazy story. Basically, it started as I walked into my place one day. It was after kind of like a breakup in a relationship. Walked in my place and just wanted to create something, a different environment for myself, like a different vibe. And I just thought like how cool it would be to walk in and like everything on my wall would be something that I created myself, like I actually put my hands on, versus something store-bought. Didn't have any idea how to do it, anything about art. Well, I knew a lot about art. I had been to multiple art shows and stuff. But as far as doing it myself, like had no idea where to start, anything like that, what supplies I needed or anything, or where to get it from. So I just dabbled. I actually found a old canvas, or actually a painting from IKEA that had the frame on it already. So not thinking you should probably start as an artist on a small piece, I started
On a big piece?
starting off.
Go big or go home.
Exactly. So it was daunting and quite overwhelming, but I tried it. I just picked up a paintbrush and some colors and threw something on a canvas, and I hated the painting. I thought it was awful, but I still have it, and it's probably a piece I'll never sell. Because it just kind of shows me like where I started and kind of where I am now, just the journey. But it started because of that. It was really just about me. I had no intentions of sharing it with the world or anything like that. It was just about me and what type of environment and space and vibe I wanted to create for myself. So just kind of started going from there. And
Love that.
then from there, it was just family started coming over and seeing the stuff that I was doing, and
Oh wait, so after you created that piece that you really didn't like, you kept going.
yeah.
So after that, you were like, let me
Yeah.
go and get another
So
blank canvas? Or?
So what's crazy is even though I hated it, I hung it over my fireplace.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had this huge piece that I just did not like, was just the focal point in my living room. But it was that same thing that kept pushing me to try more and to keep going and stuff. So yeah,
I was going to say that's inspiration in itself, because you have a painting hanging over your fireplace that you really don't like, and you're like, I need to do better.
Right,
I need
right.
to do better.
And it was, it was kind of creating a different lane that I wasn't expecting to be in. Also, now it became this thing of like, ooh, how cool that would be to now create things that, hey, and I'm a person that's really, I would say, not everybody would maybe look at me and think that, but I consider myself a pretty conscious person.
Okay.
And pretty aware of just my life and how life should be and who I am as an individual and a human being. And so I just kind of really started looking at it as like how cool that would be is one day I'm not going to be here, like I'm going to leave this place. Like my time here is temporary. But how cool that would be to like leave something for my kids and my family that they could have, and it was something that I actually made, that my hands were on. So it became something much more deeper than just creating something for my space, but something outside of that. So, and it just, that kind of drove me even more to kind of dive into different mediums and just trying different things and even get to a place to where I was no longer concerned about what other people thought.
I love that.
Just being the freedom of the expression in itself. So.
And that's what I was going to ask. So once you continue to keep going and you had people coming over to see your artwork, like how did you feel getting people to respond to something that you probably never even planned on showing to the world?
Oh, that was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing I was ever searching for. Like
Yeah.
it's again, I was fully aware of why I was doing it, what my why was. So I was never looking for validation from anyone. But to hear people say things about it and stuff, it was really, eye-opening,
Yeah.
you know, that maybe I did have something that I didn't really know I had. Um, but it made my journey a lot more meaningful
Yeah.
and purposeful. Um, and to get to have people want it and to want to put it in their home and then be a part of their home and stuff, it was just, I don't know, it was just really cool to me.
I
You know,
love
like
that.
I never expected that. You know?
And abstract art is so amazing because I'm an abstract artist myself, and so I have this natural love for abstract art because I know there's a lot of emotion that you can just throw into your pieces, and I'm assuming that's kind of how you walk me through your creative process when you're about to create a new piece.
Yes.
Because I got the opportunity to see you firsthand here at one of our live shows at Art Social Gallery, where
Yes.
you are a first place winner,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Which is
you
crazy in
have people
itself,
swarming
yeah.
around just to watch you, and so that creative process, it seems so natural,
Yeah.
the way that you flow through, and you had your earphones on and you were not worried about what was going on. So kind of walk me through your creative process, like from start to finish. What are you thinking when you're creating a new piece?
Well, first let me give you kind of my background of where I even came from before even kind of diving into art.
Perfect.
So I used to be a choreographer, a hip hop choreographer for 22 years
Yeah.
here locally in the Metroplex, and then also I lived in LA for a while. So I got to dive into and rub elbows with different, work with different celebrities and stuff. And to me, what set me apart just in that platform was when I choreographed, I was able to see what music looked like. And that was my whole goal. So when I choreographed stuff, it was whatever that sound or lyric or note or whatever it may be, whatever that was coming out and that I was hearing, I would try to make my movements to where whoever was watching it would be able to hear that sound or understand that sound, or maybe even hear a sound that they've never even heard before in a song they may have heard multiple times. So that was my whole goal in choreographing. And then I knew at a certain point in my career that this was going to end. It was going to phase out, not necessarily because of that's just what generally happens, but because of I knew my own journey and where I wanted to go. So I knew I was going to phase out of it, and I'm a creative by heart, and I knew that that's a part of my sanity, and I knew I was going to have something else to do to keep me feeling alive. So I kind of transitioned into this. So I took that same concept from a choreographer into art and painting. So everything that you see that I do is all pretty much music inspired. So there's something that I'm listening to as I'm painting, and whatever I'm hearing and what I visualize is what I place on canvas. So that's kind of using my creative process. So going into it, I never have an idea.
I love that.
Yeah, it's all a blank canvas, and I never know what colors I'm going to use. It's just, whatever I feel.
Listening and going. And it's funny you say that because I've spoken with a couple other artists, one earlier, that kind of mentioned how she transitioned from the dancing to the art. And so I think there's kind of some type of correlation with that.
It is.
And another interesting fact too that you say that, I've had several viewers that come here in the gallery, and the very first thing they say when they look at one of your pieces is, it reminds me of music. It reminds me of sound. I think the some of your strokes, especially a couple of pieces that we have in the back, I've heard some people say that recently about your pieces. So now it's all falling together. It's all coming together. I love that.
That's cool to know. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay. So there's no particular theme that you explore when you're creating. You're just kind of going with the flow. Do you have colors in mind or color themes in mind?
I never do.
Wow.
I usually just, I'll throw a canvas on the wall, and I'll go to my supplies and just kind of look around and figure, hey, this color may look good with this color, and then if I use these two colors, then to accent it, maybe I should use this color, and I'll just kind of go from there, from there it's just really, I just kind of let the music just kind of guide me, but more importantly, I'll be the first to say, and I will never deny it, I truly think that it's just God and guiding me. Again, looking back at that first piece and into kind of where I am now, not saying I'm this, amazing, top-notch, top-of-the-tier artist, but just seeing my own journey from then to now, it can't be anybody but.
God is good.
Yeah, all
and,
the time.
And let's kind of go back to that a little bit because that is very interesting. So you created that one piece, you continued to create after that, you were able to see people's responses that were close to you. What inspired you to just say, I'm gonna keep going, right? I'm an artist now, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going and I'm gonna sell my art.
Yeah.
Like what point in your life did that actually start where you're like, I'm Keith Green, the artist?
I think honestly, I have to give props to my three sisters.
Okay.
They're the ones that kind of pushed me in the beginning. Once they started kind of seeing more and more of my works and kind of where it was going, they were like, you need to sell this. Like, you need to let people see this. You can make money and all this stuff. And I was like, it's not about that. Like, it's not about the money to me. I don't want it, because to me, it's when I get in a space to where I feel like I'm chasing money, then my creative process kind of diminishes. And then it's not as authentic. And then and even in the process, like while I'm creating, I'm always thinking, ooh, who will like this? Will they like this? If I put this on there, will people like this and stuff? And I don't like, it makes me feel
That pressure,
I feel very uneasy. And I truly like to be very genuine and authentic just in myself. And I don't like discounting that for anybody. So it's been kind of crazy to kind of realize that and then pull yourself away from that. But they were persistent with it. They were like,
well, thank you to those three sisters. Because now look at this. This is a huge accomplishment.
Yes.
And another thing you just talked about was that pressure, that creative pressure of creating to sell or creating to make the money. And it's funny because I talked to someone recently about that, another artist, where we were talking about like when artists want to just become an independent artist. Like, how soon do you know when you want to become an independent artist? And I always say, and I say this to anyone that's just in business in general, don't quit your day job just yet.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because it does create that pressure as an artist, as an entrepreneur, or whatever you are exploring. I think that people should continue their 9-to-5 or their current career because now that's like you're able to use those funds to invest back into what you love, right? And you can be even more creative, and then you're not applying pressure, and you're not like painting. And I think that kind of sometimes you can see that in artwork, right? And so you're letting your creative juices flow, so that's a really good thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I have that same mentality. Like I even preach that to my kids now because they have other side things that they would rather be doing as a career. And I always tell them, like, hey, you use your job to finance this.
Yeah, it's like your business, like your ongoing business loan, right? And then you're happy, you're at peace, you're not worried about the money aspect. And I think it's awesome to become an independent artist, but I think it's also mandatory to have that 24-month plan, right? So that's really, really good. I love what you're doing here. Now, okay, obviously with becoming an artist, there are some challenges, right? We all have challenges.
Right.
What are some of the challenges that you say that you would have? Because I know you have your music and you're able to kind of go with the flow, but do you ever have like a creative block, or what are some of the main challenges that you've had to overcome in this industry in general?
For me, I wouldn't necessarily call it challenges. It's just life. You know, life gets in the way sometimes, and now even saying that, I wouldn't even call it as life getting in the way. It's life actually placing you where you're supposed to be.
Putting you in position.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I don't see it that way. So I don't, because I'm not an artist that's solely dependent on my artwork to live.
Yeah.
I do have I'm blessed enough to have a full-time job that takes care of myself, my family, and my household. That this is my side hustle.
Yeah.
This is my thing that I can do to kind of step away from the chaos of the world and just life in itself and all the pressures and everything that comes with it. It just kind of gives me that open space to kind of escape from and just let my crazy mind come out and go out to, you know, on canvas. So I wouldn't say I don't necessarily have any challenges.
Yeah.
But I do come across some times because of whatever may be going on in life has made me in a sense to where I just don't feel like sometimes. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a block. It's just I don't have the motivation to do it. And I've learned real quick that if you're ever in that space, don't go create.
And that was going to be my next question. Like, what is your advice to artists that may be
Yes.
going through that or a situation where they don't feel motivated to create? So
Yeah.
don't create.
I would say don't create. You
Take
know,
a pause.
Yeah, because nothing is rushed. You
Yeah.
know, unless you have a solo exhibition coming up,
Yeah.
and you don't have enough pieces or something like that. Which is, I wouldn't even place myself in that position.
Yeah.
Like, if you're ever in that place to where you feel creative, like just go and do it.
Yeah.
If you have an idea, go and do it. Like, don't wait and kind of place it on the back burner. Because as you know, as an artist, like sometimes you have an idea, and if you don't get that out,
You have to do it right then and there.
it may be gone.
Yeah, that's true.
Forever. So it's constantly create and try to set yourself up for success. I always try to have the mentality of I always want to put myself in the best position to tell myself thank you later for doing it early on. So when I create, like, it's never for anything. It's just, I'm just creating. So when something does come about, like, I'm ready.
That's amazing. And that's really, really good advice. So any artists out there, if you have paintings that are just sitting in your garage or sitting at home, put it out there, show the world your paintings,
Yes,
right?
yes, why not?
So let's talk about, yourself evolving as an artist, right? You've had a lot of success. You had an amazing solo show here. You had a ton of supporters and people that showed up to support you, which is amazing and awesome. So you're obviously growing your career in this industry. How do you see yourself evolving in the next few years? Do you have like particular goals pinpointed, or are you kind of taking it day by day, or what are some of your goals as an artist?
Well, on a personal level, I'll say this, and this has kind of been more of my just internal thing mentally, and I don't really speak this out, but this is my moment to put it out into the universe. Like, I've always told myself, like, I will be the first millionaire of my family.
Wow,
Yes,
I
so
love that.
That is one of my top-notch goals. I want to be in a position to not necessarily take care of my family, but be an example for my family. I know where I started and where I came from and everything that I've endured in my life that has kind of, I wouldn't say catapult, because, as catapult, you're like shooting from one place and you end up somewhere else. But it's everything that I've been through in between that's been the most important to me. So it's being in that space is very important to me. And I would say that to any artist, like if this is your thing and this is what you really truly want to do, understand your why first. And if your why is more or less something superficial, that's probably not the route to go. But if you have a greater meaning and a higher meaning to why you're actually doing it, I would say dive all into it.
There's so many people attached to your why. There's so many people attached to my why. It's not all about us.
Right.
Right? That why and why you're doing things, it's not always about us.
No.
It's about so many things that's attached to it, creating that legacy generation after generation,
Right.
and other people that are attached to your friends, your family, and your goals. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, we have these beautiful pieces here. Can you talk to me about, do you ever have a piece where you look at and say, this is just my favorite piece? Like, do you have a favorite right here or one that you want to talk about today?
Honestly, almost every one of them.
That's some good confidence there. I love that.
Honestly, I don't talk to a lot of artists in their process, and it's not because I don't care.
Yeah.
It's basically because, and this kind of stems from being a choreographer.
Yeah.
I found that, and this was when I first kind of started, is when YouTube first started getting kind of big. So, and I noticed that the more you watch, you'll unintentionally start to pick up things from other people. And I always wanted to be, I wanted to be very genuine. I didn't want to be like anybody else. So it's the same thing with my art. I just start from a place of like, this is what I feel, this is what I want to create, and I put it out. And then once I do that, once I'm finished with it, or I think I'm finished, literally the very next day, as I'm working, so I work from home, as I'm working, I'll bring the painting in and I'll sit it next to me and prop it up, and I'll look at it all day.
Wow.
I'll literally look at it all day. So my wife, she knows, she probably thinks I'm crazy, but it's who I am.
You're indulging in your own work.
Yeah.
And you said something that was extremely important that I like to bring up is not venturing away from your own style, because
Right.
social media is so loud, the world is so loud, and the art industry, you know, it's so easy to, like you said, look at someone else and try to be like, oh man, I want to create that or change your style. How important is it to you to stick to your style, and how hard has it been for you to kind of stay in your own lane?
I think it's very important,
Yeah.
you know, because I think in doing that, you end up creating your own following
Yeah.
and your own clientele. I think when you're trying to be like somebody else, it's not necessarily that you have an authentic following or clientele. I think, you know, kind of sticking to who you are and not being afraid to kind of dive into that and seeing where that takes you is only going to bring you. I mean, think about it, like with any type of artist. So say like if you're talking about music artists, when they put out their music, if they're being like somebody else, I mean,
When I hear Mariah Carey, I know it's Mariah Carey.
right,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's
Like
a good point. Yeah.
it's you, when you stay authentic, then you know that the people that are gravitating to you are truly feeling you and understand you, which entail kind of pours back into you and makes you feel a certain way. So then your creativity starts to go higher and higher. So I think that's the most important journey as an artist is to staying true to yourself and not trying to be like anybody else. Like even being here in the garden, in the gallery, there's so many. As I look around, there's so many talented artists here, and there's and they're beautiful works. But there's nothing in any of these works that I personally want to be like.
Yeah.
Like that's not me. I think that's amazing work, but that's not me. I don't want to even try anything like that. Like I'm in my lane, and it's working for me.
Yeah,
And-
I love that.
yeah.
I think that's important. And that's the whole beauty of art, is putting yourself into your paintings, and you're doing just that. I want to talk a little bit about like the challenges, like if as an artist coming up, what advice would you give any other artists that maybe if they're painting and they don't want to show their artwork yet, or they're painting just kind of like what you started and they're like, I don't want to sell this, or I don't want to show it to the world. Like what advice would you give someone that's kind of struggling with that right now?
I would say be a risk taker. That has been something that I've always been. I'm not afraid to take a risk. You got to put yourself out there. If you have a talent, you have to understand that that's probably, not even so probably, most likely it's coming from a higher power.
Yeah.
So it is almost your duty to let the world see your gifts.
Yeah.
So I would say, just mainly just be a risk taker, like don't be afraid of what anybody's gonna think about your art and their opinions and stuff. As you know, like art is subjective.
Yeah.
One person is gonna think it's the most beautiful thing in the world, the next person is gonna think that's the most awful thing they've ever set their eyes on. And you gotta be that person to understand that and not let any of that kind of affect like who you are as an individual and an artist, and allow yourself to stay centered and grounded, 10 toes down, and be confident in who you are, and know that over time the right people are going to start to again gravitate around you and give you that validation.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. How important would you say it is to have patience, right? Because this industry and just being an artist in general, especially speaking to artists that are independent, right? They're depending on,
Yeah.
their art sales. Like, how important would you say it is to have a patience as an artist?
That's another top priority.
Yeah.
If you're going to step out and do this thing for real, like you have to. I mean, that comes with the territory. If you think that you're going to jump out and just make all these sales like every week, or you go to every event and you're going to make money, like honestly, like just last weekend I went to an event and I put in maybe 7 pieces and nothing sold.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes. And I literally left that night as I'm carrying paintings back to my car, saying out loud, I tried.
Yeah.
I tried. And I said it multiple times on the way, I tried. And just continually saying that built up more confidence in me than being in the space of like being, oh, you know, it was a waste of time, a waste of money, and why am I doing this, and going down that rabbit hole. So you do have to have a lot of patience and just believe that in time, the right person is going to come along and think that I have to have that piece. I don't care what it costs, I want it. What do I need to do? You know what I mean? Like, and you have to understand that. But it is a process, and you do have to have the patience to.
And it takes that mental toughness too, because I remember when I started as an artist, I would go to shows, and if I only made one sale, I'm like, oh no, I only made one sale, or I'm like, dang, I need to change something up. You think you need to change something or switch something, but it's extremely important to just stick with what you know and stick to what you're comfortable with. And like you mentioned, your audience that's meant for you is going to gravitate towards your artwork no matter what.
Right, and like you just said too, like it's when you're in that space, like it's real easy to now you start, especially if there's other artists around, and if they're selling, you're gonna look at them and like, oh, well, I need to do this, and ooh, their work sold, so, and they have this style, so maybe I should change. And you should never, I would say as an artist, you just never, let me think about the greats, like the great artists of the world. They're not trying to be like anybody else. They just did their thing, and they didn't care, and they became this big phenomenon.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's why I say one of my favorites is Jackson Pollock, because he's so unapologetic, and his art is just so free. It's just, you know, it's so free, and I think that's what it's all about. So.
I love him too. I mean, he's so he's unintentionally intentional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's amazing. So I want to talk about, before we go, is there anything that you would have done differently as an artist?
Started earlier.
Started sooner?
Yeah, started sooner.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah, if I would have started sooner, you know, it's when I think back, like once, like now, like being on this journey, being here now.
Yeah.
If I never would have picked up a paintbrush, when I did, I wouldn't be in this moment right now with you here on this podcast.
Never would have found you.
Right, you know, and knowing that I find myself like, what if, you know, if I would have started earlier? Because when I think back in middle school, like I was taking art, but it wasn't the cool thing to do. You know, it was, you were looked at a kind of a certain way, you know, like, yeah, well, you're doing art, you know, it was just kind of this negative stigma behind it. And so I just kind of phased out of it, you know, and didn't do it. I went totally just sports and played football, and that was my thing, and I was just the jock and macho this and macho that. But now I sit and think, like, what if, you know, if I would have continued that from at an early age, like where would I be now? What would life look like? But again, then there's a gray line, as you know, it's kind of like, but maybe I was supposed to do it the way I did.
You have to follow that journey,
Yeah.
and you know, you're here now, so that's the most important thing.
Right.
But before we go, is there anything else that you want to share to the world, or let people know about Keith Green, or any advice you want to give any art collectors, or maybe someone that's thinking about indulging in art as an artist or a collector in general?
Okay, you know that's a big question. Like I can go on and on that.
And I only see you do originals, by the way.
Yes.
So I've never seen any prints from you. I've only seen you do. Is that just where you stick with just original? If someone buys that piece, they're the only one with that piece.
I usually do only one of ones.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
you
that.
know, that's kind of been my thing. I've had so many people approach me and like, oh, you should do prints.
Yeah.
You will sell so many and stuff, and I'm like, probably, you know, but that's just not where I am.
So if I buy this piece, I'm not going to see it anywhere else.
No one else will have it.
And that's the beauty. That's the beauty behind sticking with those originals.
And that's what I would say to collectors. You know, that's one thing you will start to understand about my pieces personally, that it will be your own unique piece. No one, you won't walk into anyone else's house and see that, and you won't see it at a store or anything like that. It will be your own original piece. And most of these do have a story behind it. If it's not a story, it's an actual feeling or emotion. So if a collector is interested in any pieces, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I'll tell you all about the piece, what inspired it. Hopefully I can paint a picture to where you feel it and understand it as well, so you can share this story with your people as they come and they see your pieces in your home.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, since we're on that topic, thank you so much, Keith, for coming to meet
Thank
with
you.
us today and kind of tell your story. It's always interesting to learn kind of the background of an artist and what was going through their head as they were creating. But tell people how they can find you, maybe on Instagram. How can they see you online?
Yes, I'm mainly just on Instagram right now. I'm not a big social media person for so many reasons, but you can find me on Instagram. It's at KG_abstracts. Usually I would put a spin on that and put a Z on the end of that, but it is actually with an S. So KG_abstracts on the Instagram.
Awesome. That is amazing. And again, I get the pleasure of seeing all of Keith Green's amazing pieces here in our gallery. You can come and see his pieces in person at Art Social Gallery located in Plano, Texas. And if you're not following us yet, please make sure to go and subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel, Art Social Gallery. And if you're not following us on Instagram, please make sure to follow us on Instagram at artsocial_gallery so that you can see more amazing episodes like this.